Hey Wargamers, today we are going to do one of our first 9th edition Tau Army List reviews. Now, if you haven't seen one of these before, basically I take an army list that is sent to me by one of my patrons over on Patreon. I look at that list, talk about its strengths and weaknesses as I see them, and then try to revise it to increase its efficacy at least a little bit while still maintaining the overall theme of the list. Because, you know, the point isn't to make cookie cutter lists, the point is to maintain the vision of the author and, kind of maintain some of that play style preference. So that's what we're doing today. I have a little bit of a backlog of these. Apologies for those of you waiting on them. We will get through them as soon as possible here. But now that we're, a reasonable way into 9th edition, I figured it is time to start actually talking about these. So that's what we are doing. All right, so this is a 2,000 point list. It's basically two detachments that are practically identical. And yeah, so let's hop into it. So they're Farside Enclaves. The first one has two commanders as the HQ choices. So a commander in a Xv8 Crisis with 4 cyclic ion blasters, iridium armor, and 2 gun drones. That is a fine loadout, although generally we would look at having 3 cyclic ion blasters and an advanced targeting system just to give you a little bit more variability or flexibility in your targeting. And so, having that advanced targeting system on cyclic ion blaster makes it a lot more useful for taking out those heavier units. So I would probably opt for that. The 2 gun drones is a choice that you are going to be seeing a lot, not necessarily for the commander specifically, but in general, taking gun drones is going to be the way to go. The shield drones are actually really in a rough spot, being at 15 points compared to 10 for a gun drone. Of course, you get the same 1 wound model, but now you have guns instead of just a tougher body. So having those gun drones there, I think, is going to be a pretty popular choice. And, whether it's at the commander or you put them somewhere else, it doesn't really matter, especially on a commander in a crisis battle suit where he's probably going to be deploying alongside the majority of your forces. And that's true for commanders in general now, right? You can't really do flanking maneuvers with the way the character keyword works now, but nonetheless, having those gun drones here are going to be useful. Iridium armor is a good choice. You could also go with an enforcer battle suit. Either way, you're just being durable in different ways. I think this is a fine choice, though. We have a crisis battle suit with 4 fusion blasters. Again, with the iridium and 2 gun drones. This choice, I think, is a little bit more controversial. For fusion blasters, I really would like to see something with a little bit more mobility, so a cold star instead of just a Xv8 suit. The reason for that is because you want to be able to get in close, especially as Farside Enclaves. You want to have that ability to be right where you want to be, and a cold star guarantees that, or practically guarantees that. And so I think there's really an asset there. Moving into troops, we have a breacher team. So it's eight fire warriors, 8 Shazla, and then a Shazui. We have a gun drone and a guardian drone. That's great. That gives a little bit more durability to these fire warriors. And the gun drone is there for more severe protocols. So that's good. We really could break this up into 2 groups. I mean, well, actually, we can't the way it is, right? It's a 9, and we can't have a unit of 4. But if we had 1 more fire warrior here, we can actually have 2 groups of 5. And I think that's worth it. I think, having 2 groups of 5 gives you more flexibility and leaves you less vulnerable to things like blast if you do see them. So really having those 2 groups of 5, I think, is the way to go there. You don't have to double down on drones. You could just have drones on one of those units, and it would function essentially the same, just more options. For elites, we have a Riptide with Smart Missile System. Yep, that's the right choice, especially in 9th edition. The Smart Missile System is a huge advantage because it does not require line of sight. Advanced Targeting System, yep, that is also a good choice with Heavy Burst Can, and yes, also a good choice, right? So not a lot different there. We have Velocity Tracker as the secondary support system in this entry. I think the Velocity Tracker, and I'm sorry if you guys are seeing, kind of really sporadic windows popping up here with Battle Scribe. It's being very it really wants to tell me what all these things do. So velocity tracker is a good choice here. You know, the prevalence of the fly keyword is, or at least the utility of the fly keyword is diminished, and therefore you would expect to see a lower abundance of fly units on the board because of that. So I don't think it's necessarily as useful. One thing I really do think is particularly useful is the ability to have a counterfire defense system here. So I would really either opt for counterfire defense system or even a drone controller. A drone controller is going to be something that will really help you leverage all the drones in your list, especially if you're going with gun drones or micro drones. Having that drone controller on a unit that will stick around for a long time in the center of your army is going to be useful. So that's another option there. For fast attack, we have a unit of 2 Piranhas. Each of them have a gun drone, or 2 gun drones and a burst cannon, so stock. This is a great way to get more gun drones on the board. They're also going to be really useful for screening your characters. This list has a lot of commanders, and so having those Piranhas are going to be useful in that regard. They're also going to be offering you some strong board control. Overall, though, I think that this is potentially a place where we might look to save some points. If we don't do that, if we are keeping these Piranhas, I would say split them up into 2 different units. There's not really a reason to not do that, and it just makes them more flexible. So yeah, I would split that into 2 units of 1. We have the room. For dedicated transport, we have a devilfish. Good. We're going to need that for those breachers. That's going to make those breachers a lot more mobile, but also a lot more durable. Allow them to sit on an objective for a few turns until they need to hop out and take care of business. Or not, you know, they can hop out turn 1, 2, and you still have the devilfish there capping an objective. We have a second patrol detachment. Wow, having a hard time. Second patrol detachment, Farside Enclaves again. And we see an issue here. So it's fine to have multiple commanders in a detachment as Farside Enclaves, but that does not override the rule of 3. So we have to take a commander. We can take 1 Xv8, but we have to do like a Cold Star or an Enforcer down here instead. So one of these will have to switch if we were to keep the other 2. But again, we have the same kind of setup here where we have a suit with 4 cyclic, a gun drone, iridium. This one's also our warlord. He has a pure tight engram neurochip. I don't think that's necessary or actually advisable for the warlord to also have the pure tight engram neurochip. And the reason for that is because you're already making him a target as your warlord. So you might as well put the pure tight engram neurochip on a different guy so that, you know, if your warlord goes down, you don't lose your warlord and your engram neurochip. You know, it's kind of spreading your eggs out into multiple baskets. He has 3 Unity Devastation. That's a perfectly good warlord trait. We could also look at some of the Farside Enclaves ones from the greater good, but 3 Unity Devastation is still very, very strong. For troops, we have, again, that 9-man unit of breachers. I think it's worth bumping both of these up to 10-man and then splitting them into 2. So basically having 20 instead of 18 fire warriors. For elites, we have that same Riptide. And again, the velocity tracker is fine, but we could go with some other options. Those Piranhas, again, are, you know, we have 4 Piranhas in this list. I think having some Piranhas here for screening your characters is going to be good, but overall we're actually not, we don't have a ton of drones. And I'd like to see a little bit more investment into the basics here, right? The Piranhas are pretty specialized. They're not going to do a lot for you offensively or in terms of durability aside from screening your characters. They offer, you know, that board control and mobility, but I think there's a little bit over investment into these based on how I'm seeing 9th play out right now. And then another devilfish for the rest of those for the rest of those fire warriors. So overall, I think, you know, this list is pretty well rounded. It has nice mobility, certainly, has reasonable durability in terms of the Riptides are going to be able to stick around. The Devilfish are going to have some ability to hang on, although if they're targeted, they're going to go down pretty fast. But really, I think a little bit more investment in drones would be good. There are no marker lights in this list, which, you know, you can get around in some ways, but you know, the commanders don't really care, but your Riptides do. Your Riptides do care, and so I would like to see some marker lights in this list, even if it's just a few, to be able to get some benefits for your Riptides. That just makes the Farside Enclave's perk of getting an additional marker light within 12 inches all the more better. So yeah, I'd like to see some more marker lights in here, or any marker lights in here rather, for that reason. Just giving yourself a little bit more reliability, and looking at some drones too for a little bit more durability on those Riptides would be useful. But yeah, I like the idea. I think it's a scrappy list. I think it's a cagey list. I think you're able to do a lot with it. It's just really coming down to making sure that those commanders stay alive and those Riptides are on the board. And I think there's some tweaks we can make to make that a little bit more likely. All right, so here we are with the revised list. Again, it's the same basic idea, trying to maintain those same elements, those same playstyle elements, but just tweaking them. You know, it's a lot of the same players, just in different costumes. So here we are with the Xv8 Crisis Suit with 3 cyclic and advanced targeting instead of 4 cyclic ion blasters. Again, that's just going to give you more flexibility, more of a punch against certain targets. The 2 gun drones and the Radium Suit are there as well. We switched this guy over to Xv86 Cold Star with 4 fusion blasters, just to give him the ability to be in the right place at the right time. Whether that's for offensive, defensive, or scoring purposes, I think having just 1 Cold Star in your list is really useful, assuming he stays alive, which is kind of a big assumption, but do what you can. For troops, we have again those 2 breacher teams that I was talking about. So I added an additional breacher and then split it into 2. I maintained the drones only in 1 unit though. And the great thing about this is that you can fit both breacher teams and the drones inside the Devilfish. And so that means you can disembark the drones from the Devilfish. You can disembark the drones from the breacher team, and then you can disembark each breacher team independently. So there's actually quite a lot of different drops you can do with that. And that can be advantageous for scoring things when you want to, but still maintaining durability by reserving some of your guys inside of the Devilfish. For elites, we have that same Riptide. I didn't touch him. He has a velocity tracker. That is just fine. For fast attack, I maintained these Piranhas, but I broke them into 2 different groups. So these are going to give you some nice screening and board control options. And then we have the Devilfish. For the second attachment, we see a little bit more of an alteration here. We have a commander in Xv8, just like before. He's lost his Pure Tide Engram Neurochip. I gave it to his buddy down here, but he's otherwise going to be the same. We actually could, we can save some points here. He has 4 cyclic. He doesn't need to have 4 cyclic. We can go with the 4 and then the advanced targeting system again. So he has 3 cyclic ion blasters and advanced targeting system here. And look, now we're down to 1975 points. We actually have 25 points we can play around with. For the second one, we have Xv8. He has his 4 fusion blasters. He's just going to be a little bit more punchy. But you know what? You can still do a lot with fusion blasters at 18 inches. He doesn't necessarily need to be a Cold Star, but the way 9th is, he's not going to be outside of 18 inches for very long, right? So yeah, he'll end up probably closer than he wants to be. Breacher teams, again, same as above. The Riptide I changed here pretty significantly. So we have the Smart Missile System, And instead of the heavy burst cannon, I took the amplified ion accelerator. And that's, that's a relic. So we have to pay a command point to bring this on top of the pure tight engram Eurochip. But it's just really good. It really does a lot of work. It's really, really points efficient against a lot of different targets, but especially against vehicles, it gets the job done. So when you need it, you're going to be really happy that you have it. Plus, it's a Riptide, so it sticks around for a long time. Counterfire defense system, so that if he gets charged, he's going to be able to use some of those really awesome shots against the guys that are charging him. Drone controller here instead of anything else, because, well, with the amplified ion accelerator, you don't really need a advanced targeting system. And we have a ton of drones in this list. Well, maybe not a ton of drones, but we have a reasonable number of drones in this list, and we want to buff their ballistic skill. So we're going to take that. We're going to use that drone controller. And then the ion accelerator is just the stand-in for the amplified ion accelerator, because we have to take that first. For fast attack, I've actually taken a few units of drones. One of my concerns about the earlier list was the number of drones, so we've bumped that up, and we've included some marker lights here. So we have 2 units of 4 marker drones, and then another unit of gun drones, and then the devilfish. So, we bumped up the marker light count, we bumped up the drone count, and give us a little bit more of investment in a few places. So we got 25 points here. Where do we want to spend those? We could buy 2 drones. Certainly not the wrong choice to do that. We could look at doing some other stuff too, though. Right? But what? We could add more breachers. But, if we do that, then we can't fit both breachers inside the devilfish. So I really do think probably what we want to do here, let's give the Chazouille. I mean, we could give all the Chazouille marker lights, but considering we have these two marker drone options, I think we're probably fine with that. And if they're going to be in the devilfish, this is kind of like a token marker light, like just to use up the points. We could, what we could do. And I don't think this is the wrong answer. Let's do this. Let's go Piranha. Hey, buddy. There you go. Yeah. It feels good, doesn't it? Yeah. Take some seeker missiles. You can pop those off turn 1, make something fun happen. And then, let's give one of our devilfish a seeker missile too. I mean, really, we could instead, we could probably switch this around, put 2 seeker missiles on the devilfish instead of the piranha. Might be a good choice, although I think because the devilfish is going to be more reliable or more sturdy, so it's not as likely to die turn 1, and so you're more likely to be able to use those seeker missiles. But then you're just kind of sweetening the pot for them to shoot at your devilfish. And so I would say just keep them on the piranhas, because then they have to make the choice, do I shoot at the piranhas or do I shoot at the devilfish? If you put them on the devilfish, then they're definitely going to shoot at the devilfish. And they still might, right? But here we're spreading things out a little bit in a way that forces them to choose. And either way, we're not losing all of our stuff. So we want to keep those breachers alive. So if we can kind of distract them with the seeker missiles on the piranhas, sounds good. I think those 5 seeker missiles are probably worth 2 drones. So yeah, there's the list. We just add some seeker missiles and we're good. Awesome. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Are there things you like about this revision, things that you would change that I didn't? Let me know. If you want me to do a video like this for you, hop on over to Patreon, join our community there. It's something that I do for those fine folks that make this channel possible. So thank you, everybody. And as always, happy wargaming. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This channel is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining our community over there as well.
Special thanks to Shifty, Michael Byrne, Jim Bob, Tao Oswell, Drew Prattley, Stephen Cohen, Jake Johnson, Memini Painting, Richard B., Jose Gomez, Alex Hanna, Ruger, Jacob Harkrider, Mark Shoring, Zealous Brimstone, Jared Egler, and Chris Kessler.